most know that Rapunzel is by far my favorite Disney princess. I have always, like many, admired her joy, her independence, and thirst for adventure. But as I was rewatching this film recently, I was more put off than ever by Mother Gothel. I mean, everyone hates Mother Gothel, but for some reason, this particular viewing, this particular time of rewatching this film that I've seen so many times, I was beyond repulsed by her treatment of Rapunzel. After thinking on it long and hard, I came to realize that Rapunzel's choice to disobey her mother by leaving the tower and going on this adventure with some random dude was far more brave than we give her credit for. Hey y'all, I'm the Geek Apprentice, a curly-haired lass who's passionate about many geeky things such as Harry Potter, Disney, and Zelda. If you also enjoy geeky things, then perhaps consider subscribing so you can see all of my content easily the moment it comes out. So let's do a little recap of Rapunzel's story in Tangled here, shall we? She's born with the gift of healing power, which makes her hair glow due to her mom drinking a healing potion made from said flower. She's stolen in infancy by Gothel to hoard those healing powers after Gothel realizes that cutting off a piece of her hair wouldn't contain the power but actually get rid of it. She's raised in a tower that she has never left, learning various skills to keep herself occupied, waiting for the next moment that her mother comes to basically use her hair to make herself younger. And then, with it being the eve of her 18th birthday, we see Rapunzel bring up the topic to Mother Gothel of her maybe leaving the tower so she can go see these floating lights that she's only ever seen appear on her birthday in person. Gothel immediately shuts down the idea, telling her that she is not strong enough to handle the real world and must stay in the tower. Then a thief named Flynn Rider sneaks into the tower thinking it's empty, and in fact Mother Gothel happens to be gone after he's just stolen the crown of the lost princess, whom we know to be Rapunzel. Rapunzel knocks him out with a frying pan and locks him in her wardrobe. When Gothel returns, Rapunzel attempts to negotiate once again the idea of her leaving to see these lanterns, thinking she'll show her mother the man in her closet to prove that she can handle herself. Gothel shuts her down harshly, saying that she will never, ever get to leave the tower. Rapunzel tries to gain her composure and recovers by saying she actually just wanted new paint for her birthday. Gothel is satisfied with this answer and leaves on the long, apparently 4-day journey to get said paint. While Mother Gothel is gone, Flynn is then tied to a chair with Rapunzel's hair, and then Rapunzel and her chameleon Pascal interrogate him and convince him to take her to see the lanterns in person on the premise that if he returns her safely, she'll give him back his satchel, which has the crown in it and she has hidden. Then craziness ensues, singing with thugs about dreams, almost drowning. Rapunzel revealing her magic healing powers to Flynn, and him revealing that his actual name is Eugene Fitzherbert and that he's an orphan. They begin to bond in a new way as she heals his hand with her hair. And then for a brief moment while Eugene's out getting firewood, Mother Gothel appears because she figured out that Rapunzel was gone and tries to convince her to come back home, which doesn't work, funny enough. So she guilts her into thinking that she's hurting her poor mother and takes the crown and shows it to Rapunzel, saying, "Give this to him and see where his alliance truly lies." Then there's dancing and hair braiding. Then once nighttime arrives in the castle town of Corona, Rapunzel and Flynn go out on a boat to see the lanterns in person. It's beautiful and I cry every time. During all of this, we see Gothel teaming up with the Stabbington brothers, the two criminals that Eugene was working with and then betrayed, to get Rapunzel back and get revenge on Eugene. Just as Rapunzel and Eugene are about to kiss, he sees the Stabbington brothers in the distance and decides that he needs to take care of business. Rapunzel has just given him the crown, trusting him, and rightly so at this point, but when they get out of the boat, Eugene goes off in the distance to try and give everything back to the Stabbington brothers so he can just go back to Rapunzel. But they kidnap him and tie him to a boat while trying to kidnap Rapunzel, who now thinks Eugene has abandoned her. Mother Gothel, trying to get on Rapunzel's good side, comes in and saves the day, knocking out the Stabbington brothers and convinces her to come back home. Once back in the tower, Rapunzel has a huge epiphany in which she realizes that she is the lost princess, and those lanterns are being sent out every year on her birthday by the king and queen, her parents, for her. She and Gothel get into a big argument, but before we can see the really scary stuff happen, The movie cuts to Eugene in prison. Eugene learns what has happened to Rapunzel and that he's going to be hanged. He manages to escape the prison with the help of Maximus, the castle horse, and the thugs. He immediately sets off to find Rapunzel in that tower, and it's worth noting that by this point, he stopped calling her Blondie and started using her real name, Rapunzel. And that is character growth. Once he's in the tower, he sees that Rapunzel has been bound by Mother Gothel, who then proceeds to stab him. Rapunzel begs Gothel to let her heal him, saying that if she lets her do this, she will go with Gothel and will never try to escape again. And naturally, Eugene's trying to object to this. But Gothel agrees. When Rapunzel is attempting to heal Eugene, Eugene grabs a shard from a mirror that broke while Rapunzel was having her epiphany and cuts off all of her hair, knowing that it'll get rid of her powers. Her hair turns brown and seemingly has no powers left. This causes Gothel to age rapidly, showing us just how old she really was, and with the help of Pascal, falls out the tower window. Since Eugene was not healed by Rapunzel's hair, he slips away to death. Rapunzel, in her panic and grief, begins to sing the healing song rapidly, hoping something will happen. But then, after Eugene has slipped away, she finishes the song slowly and begins to cry. And typically, I'm sobbing. As she starts to cry, one of her tears lands on Eugene's cheek, and showing that she did still possess some healing magic, the tear runs through Eugene's body and heals him, bringing him back to life. The two rejoice and kiss, and then set off for the castle, where Rapunzel is finally reunited with her real family, her real parents. Eugene is also welcomed and the entire kingdom rejoices, and they all live happily ever after. Okay, look, there's obviously no shortage of brave Disney princesses, right? Mulan risked her life for her father and kinda saved China. Belle takes the place of her father, knowing that she's gonna be enslaved by the nasty beast. Merida's movie title is literally Brave, and I think in the story of her and her mother, you could say it was really brave of her to actually own up to what she did wrong. Moana sets sail on the open sea with no experience, adventuring on a seemingly impossible task. And of course there's others too. And while I obviously have bias with Rapunzel being my favorite Disney princess, like I said, it wasn't until recently that I began to understand the severity of her situation and the amazing bravery she possesses. Stockholm Syndrome. I know, we've all heard it applied to the Beauty and the Beast story, and I've heard things against it, things for it, but no matter which one you subscribe to, that's not the point of this video. I will say though, this syndrome could apply to the toxic relationship between Gothel and Rapunzel. Gothel constantly puts her down, telling her she's weak, she can't handle the real world, and that basically the only thing she's good for is for staying in that tower and letting her hair work its magic. Of course, she doesn't say any of this way because she's a manipulator. She tells her the world is cruel and would abuse her power. Irony, she's careful to point out all the little ways in which Rapunzel is just too vulnerable, and of course the only time Gothel shows any affection towards Rapunzel is when it benefits her. So this teaches Rapunzel that she has to earn her mother's love. On top of that, when she loses her temper, which is 100% her fault, she doesn't apologize. Instead, she pins it on Rapunzel and makes it seem like it's her fault, and she does it in a very sly and crafty way. A way that makes Rapunzel feel like it's her own fault that Gothel was yelling. That it's Rapunzel's fault that she has to stay in the tower and be oh so protected by Gothel. Where Stockholm Syndrome comes into play, and no, I am not an expert on this is based on my simple-minded observation, is when we see Gothel's tricks working. Because we see Rapunzel readily return to Gothel several times. Even when she does sort of stand up to Gothel, she still reaches out hoping that Gothel will reciprocate her love. It's only when Rapunzel learns the truth that she finally stands up and breaks away for good, and even then, when Gothel falls out of the tower, we see Rapunzel reach for her. That could be because of her good heart, or it could be something more severe. Needless to say, if this wasn't a Disney adaptation, it would be very scary, and Rapunzel would have many issues. But thankfully, her sunshine personality, which is so perfect by the way, helps her triumph over everything. My point in all of this is for Rapunzel to willingly disobey her horrible mother, to step out into a world she has literally never known in any sense of the word, and to ultimately take charge of her own life and her own decisions is a huge deal for anyone, but especially for her. That takes more than just her adventurous and positive spirit. That takes the utmost bravery. I cannot emphasize that enough. Her situation was easily one of the most scary of any Disney princess we've seen. In most cases, the abuse is obvious, like in Cinderella, or like in the case with Elsa and her parents, it wasn't necessarily abuse as much as her parents didn't know what to do. They didn't know the best thing to do with her situation, and try as they might with all the love in the world, they just didn't know how to handle it. What makes Rapunzel's situation so severely scary is that the abuse for her was confused with love because of the way it was done to her. It wasn't done with obvious taunts and jeers, it was done with words that seemed to be okay. Again, the movie would be 100 times darker had it not been a Disney adaptation. But honestly, I'm kind of glad that it's a Disney adaptation, because as I grow older and my heart aches more for her and I have more understanding of my world around me, I begin to appreciate her more and admire her more. When you first watch it as a kid or a young teen like I was, it's just a positive movie with some scary stuff. But as you get older, you realize, like I have, how scary her situation was and how brave she was. And again, I just end up admiring her all the more. Rapunzel's story in Disney's adaptation called Tangled is truly one of the most inspiring I have ever come across. What do you think of Rapunzel's situation? I know this had a much darker tone to it, but I felt it was worth exploring and sharing as it's helped me to admire her even more than I already did. While you're at it, feel free to subscribe and check out my other social media such as Instagram and Twitch. But that's all for today. Thank you for watching. And of course, thank you so much to my patrons like Justin, Greg, and Andrew. Y'all's support is very much appreciated. And if anyone else would like to get in on the special stuff that I offer my patrons, just go to patreon.com/thegeekapprentice. The link is in the description below.